Hi, my name's Caroline Lasersohn, and I'm making a couple of videos that discuss some of the basic information you have to know to get your pilot's license. In my previous videos, I've talked about controlling the aircraft and straight and level flight. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the most important aspects of flying, takeoff. Even though takeoff is actually pretty simple, it's considered one of the most hazardous phases of flight. This is because the plane is at a high angle of attack and doesn't have full airspeed yet. This makes stalling a really possible consequence. Also, if there's trouble with the airplane or engine, you would find out about it at takeoff and wouldn't be high enough to complete an emergency landing. So, takeoff is important to know about. Normal takeoff is when the airplane is heading into the wind or the crosswind is light. It's also when the runway is considered long enough for a gradual acceleration and there are no obstacles to be avoided. There are three main parts of a normal takeoff: the takeoff roll, liftoff, which is also called the rotation, and the initial climb. The takeoff roll is the segment of the takeoff when the airplane is accelerated from a standstill to an airspeed that provides sufficient lift. The nose wheel should be positioned straight and centered on the runway. Next, the pilot should release the brake and keep the balls of their feet on the rudder control to control direction. The plane tends to yaw left due to the propeller and engine torque. The throttle should then be advanced smoothly to takeoff power, which in my plane is full power. Abrupt application makes it more likely for the plane to yaw sharply left. Eventually, the student should be able to feel when the plane wants to lift off by the slight resistance of the controls instead of fixating on the airspeed indicator. The development of feel is helpful for this phase of flight. The next aspect of takeoff is the liftoff or rotation. The rotation is the act of becoming airborne and results from lifting of the airplane off the ground or the pilot rotating the nose of the plane for an increase in the angle of attack. Ideal takeoff attitude requires only minimum pitch adjustments shortly after the plane takes off to attain the best rate of climb speed, which is also known as Vy. When the flight controls become effective, which can be known by the feel, back elevator pressure should be gradually applied to raise the nose wheel slightly off the runway. Aerodynamics will do most of the work. Airplanes can be forced into the air, but it isn't recommended because too much angle of attack at a slow speed can result in the airplane settling back down on the runway or even stalling. After the liftoff is the initial climb, which begins when the plane has left the ground and the pitch attitude has been established. When the plane reaches a safe maneuvering altitude, the initial climb and takeoff is complete. The goal of the initial climb is to maintain the pitch attitude in order to get the Vy, or the speed at which the airplane will gain the most altitude in the shortest period of time. The airplane will pick up speed rapidly when it becomes airborne, and takeoff power should be maintained until at least 500 feet above the ground or clear of any obstacles. This is so the pilot has more maneuvering space in case of an engine failure or other emergency. Since the power is at a fixed setting, speed has to be adjusted by the pitch. A higher angle of attack equals less airspeed, and a lower angle of attack equals more speed. After the recommended climb speed is reached and a safe altitude is established, power, pitch, and trim should be adjusted for straight and level flight. Ground effect reduces the upwash, downwash, and wingtip vortices. Reduced wingtip vortices creates less induced drag. As the airplane lifts out of ground effect, the airplane will experience a number of aerodynamic changes. When leaving ground effect, the airplane will require an increased angle of attack to maintain the same lift coefficient because the ground effect created a cushion of air that assisted the lift. The airplane will also experience an increase in induced drag and more power is required. Additional power compensates for the increased drag, but the engine is usually at full power during takeoff. That's why taking off at the recommended speed is important. In addition, the airplane experiences a pitch-up tendency and needs less elevator pressure due to the increased downwash on the horizontal tail. Static pressure is also reduced and indicated airspeed increases. So, ground effect is useful during takeoff to obtain a true flying speed in bad runway conditions. If the runway is too short or it's too rough or soft, the plane can take off before takeoff speed is required and fly in the ground effect. Then, when speed reaches the climb speed, the plane can take off while floating in the air. So those are the main components of a normal takeoff. I keep saying normal takeoff instead of just takeoff because takeoff procedures change due to wind conditions and runway conditions. A lot of the times more steps are added, like in a short field takeoff when you float in the ground effect. I might be able to get into specialized takeoffs in another video, but I'm not sure. Anyways, thanks for watching and learning about the basics of takeoff, and please check back for more videos. Thanks.